a turn of events, like how it happened, can take place because he is seeking out someone like Eve who was on her own and had nobody around her. My mum had a dream of one of our neighbours that she had a stroke. This neighbour, I'm going to refer to her as Eve to protect her privacy. But after my mum had this dream, she felt God was impressing on her heart to seek out Eve and to pray for her. Was one of our neighbours where we used to live in northwest London. And this is all true events, just to add. But Eve was one of our neighbours where we used to live in northwest London. We actually moved from there in 2007, so it's been about 17 years. The date of me recording this video is 30th of July 2024. And so my mum decided that she wanted to be obedient to what God had said. So she went back to our old residence to see if she could find Eve. She went back to the address that she remembered Eve used to live at when we were there, and she wasn't there. So then she located one of our previous neighbours who still lives there and asked her if she knew where Eve was, that she had this dream and she felt God calling for her to seek this lady out. When my mum told me all of this, guys, I could not remember who this lady was. Yeah, my mum said her name and I was like, I don't remember who that is. It was such a long time ago. So after attempting to get her contact details from that old neighbour who still lived there, which was unsuccessful, my mum then decided that she would just keep frequenting our old area. So she would randomly get on a bus and just go to the area, maybe go to a shop or what have you, in the hopes that she would bump into Eve. Now that sounds crazy, right? Like, to physically go to an area and just hope that you're going to bump into somebody. I mean, the chances are very, very slim. But she persisted because she felt so strongly about what God had said and that she needed to find this woman and to pray for her. So anyway, on her way back home, after one of the failed attempts of finding Eve, she just happened to miss her bus home. She waited for another bus, boarded the bus, and lo and behold, Eve was on that bus. And my mum said to her, Eve, I had a dream and I have been searching. I came back to our old residence and I asked people if they knew where you were, how I could contact you. And I knew that God wanted me to find you. And lo and behold, today I'm on my way home and you are here. So now that I have you, either you are coming to my house or we are going to your house. But I am going to pray with you as I have felt called to do for these past weeks because I have been looking and searching for you. So Eve was naturally a bit taken aback but also excited. She hadn't seen my mum in years. And Eve is a lady approximately in her 50s. So she said, oh, you know, my place isn't so tidy, I don't normally have guests, etc. My mum said, it doesn't matter. I just want to come with you because God wants me to pray with you. And so they went back to her place. When they got there, my mum explained to me that her accommodation was very unsightly. It was very dirty and unkept. She looked around and was even amazed at how Eve was able to stay in her accommodation like that. So anyway, she took herself a chair and she said she had to clean it before sitting on it because it was just so filthy. Everything in her place was. And my mum asked Eve about her well-being and how things have been. Does she see her family and what have you? And Eve mentioned that both her parents are dead and she never had any children. So it was just her living there by herself. No real friends, no family to visit her. And so she spent all of her time alone. So my mum took her out for a meal after they had sat down and spoken a while. They went to a restaurant. Before she left her, she prayed with her. I think everybody has heard of the Christian sinner's prayer. So she took her through that prayer, but she also prayed a prayer of healing for her because of what she had seen in the dream, that she had had a stroke. And this compelling feeling that she had to find this woman, Eve was very excited and grateful, happy that, you know, she got to spend time with my mum. She wasn't used to having guests. She was always used to being by herself. And so when my mum got home, she told me what had happened. And guys, I was completely flabbergasted because my mum had been saying to me since she had the dream, Annie, I need to find this woman. God is telling me I need to find this woman. I'm going to keep searching for her until I find her. And I was here, I'm at home doing my stuff. My mum would leave the house and go to our old area and be there for a few hours and then come home. And she's like, I wasn't able to find her. So my mum has been determined to find this woman. So anyway, after their meeting, a few weeks went by, and there was one weekend that my mum and I weren't at home because we had gone to my cousin's wedding. And Eve actually came to our house whilst we were away. And it was our neighbor who told us that, oh, you had a visitor. And she said she was looking for you. And I told her that you guys were away and you wouldn't be back until the following week. So she went back home. And that was the middle of June 2024. Then at the end of June, we had our church service. My mum had invited Eve to come along after seeing her that time. And she did. She came. And so that was the first time I'd seen her since we moved away from where we used to live in 2007. And as soon as I saw her, I remembered this woman, guys. I gave her a hug. We embraced. I asked her how she was. My mum telling me about her accommodation and her surroundings and the fact that she spends so much time by herself and she doesn't get visitors and she sees nobody and she's always on her own. My heart really went out to her. My mum had previously said to her at the time that they met that she wanted to come over and clean her property, just give it a good tidy and clean things and what have you. And I said to my mum that I would be more than happy to join her in doing that, because when my mum explained her situation, I really felt for her. And so anyway, I've never got in contact with my mum to arrange that. But after our service, she did visit us the following week. It was the first week in July or 2024, depending on when you watch this. I got to see her again, gave her a hug, and was just like, I'm so glad to see you. She was saying her life is just, she goes to work, she comes home. Today is the 30th of July, 2024. And yesterday, Monday, the 29th of July, my mum got news that Eve had died in her sleep at home. And I just stood there when my mum told me, shocked. And it immediately increased my faith, because I thought, wow, I remember my mum telling me she had this dream that this lady had a stroke, and God was impressing on her heart to find this woman and to pray for her and with her. And just remembering how much my mum went out of her way to find Eve, all the steps she took, the coincidence that she ended up meeting her on the bus. I mean, what are the chances that you go looking for someone who used to live where you used to live 17 years ago, and you keep going with the expectation you are going to find that person, to then find her, take her through the sinner's prayer, pray a prayer of healing for her to come over, join us at service, and then to be dead almost 3 months later. And it just made me think that God was seeking the welfare of this woman. Eve spent a lot of time on her own. She didn't have friends, family, no one to come and see her. She just lived a life of to work and home. And her surroundings were, some of us would only be able to imagine. But somehow she stood out to God. And God said to my mum, go find this woman and pray for her. And it just touched me, because I thought to myself, my mum may not be able to turn up at the door of those who feel alone and by themselves. But even if you feel like that, God still sees you. He still sees you. And that's why I decided to share this message on my platform today. It is not like any content I've shared before, but I just thought, if somebody is out there and they feel like they are on their own, know that God sees you. God saw Eve. I could not remember who this woman was, what she looked like, nothing. My mum was not even thinking about her, okay? We had moved years ago. But for him to show this woman to my mum in a dream that she had a stroke, and for my mum to be so determined and to press on because of the impression she had that she needed to find this woman and pray with her, and for her to find her, guys, it did something to my faith. I had battled with my faith for years. I'm in a much better place. I would say my relationship with God is so much more improved. But when something like this happens, it has increased my faith even more. It just made me think that God can love somebody that much. A turn of events, like how it happened, can take place because He is seeking out someone like Eve who was on her own and had nobody around her. And yet God saw her and was determined that before she dies, somebody would pray for her and with her. So if you're on your own and you think that nobody sees you, God sees you. God sees you. And I wanted to share this because too many coincidences for me to call it a coincidence. God has been intentional with finding Eve, and knowing that He can love somebody so much. I mean, I still can't believe this woman died yesterday. They said she died in her sleep peacefully. No stroke, no illness. She went in her sleep, but she was in her 50s, so she was young, okay, by today's standards. But to think that God sought her out before she would go, it has moved me. And I said to my mum, Mum, God will bless you for going out of your way to find this woman. God will bless you. This whole thing started in March 2024, followed by weeks of mum trying to find her. Now we're in July 2024 and Eve passed away last night. And that's why I felt I would share this story, because it made me realize there could be a lot of people out there who feel they're on their own. They don't have anybody. But God wants you to know that you're not alone. Even if people don't, He sees you. To have that much love for us. And it made me think that He sees us all in the way that He saw Eve. That's how He views every single person on this planet. He loves us all dearly. My faith is moved. I've shared my story about my relationship with Christ on my website. If you go specifically to my faith page, I've even done a video. Like, at one point, I was deep in the world. I was very, I guess Christians would call it like a heathen, but God proved Himself to me time and time again. It's incredible. Guys, I'm sitting here and I'm still I'm amazed. What love. So if you're on your own, you're not on your own. That's all I've got to say. You are not on your own.
It's a bright new day. You're here with your girl, Miss Annie J. I'm gonna give them what they want, cause I came to slay. And nothing's ever gonna take my joy away. I'm about that life.